If you are just wanting to dive into oud, then you absolutely must check out Oud Wood. So let's review it now. Hey, what's going on guys? Hunter here and welcome back to my channel where I upload weekly fragrance content. So you already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below and also be sure to go ahead and check out my Instagram page. But today we are reviewing a classic from the house of Tom Ford, and that is none other than Oud Wood. Now, I honestly cannot believe I have not reviewed this fragrance yet because honestly, this is such a special fragrance in my collection. This is actually the fragrance that introduced me to the note of oud, and I was absolutely mesmerized by that note. Back maybe 5 or so years ago, I went into Saks Fifth Avenue, smelled the Tom Fords. I was very interested with this one and Tuscan Leather, which I actually bought over Oud Wood, which is surprising because I much prefer Oud Wood, but I just love that gold and kind of black classic Tom Ford bottle, so I went with that. But I remember the salesperson over at the Tom Ford booth gave me a sample of Oud Wood and Oud Mineral, which I wore for a couple of days, and I was blown away. I couldn't even imagine a fragrance smelling like this one because of course I was used to like Bleu de Chanel's, Dior Sauvages, and just your typical like designer fragrances, and this one is so unique and way different than those. And back then I had no idea what oud even was until I researched it and I saw that it was a moldy wood, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And one thing I actually hate is mold, guys, because mold puts mold spores in the air and it gets onto things, and yeah, I just try to stay away from that. So when I knew that this was a moldy wood, I was like, wow, I wonder if you spray this, it would actually have mold spores in it. That was just the way my mind was thinking 5 years ago when I had no idea about this stuff. But of course, there's not real oud in here, unfortunately though, but that still wouldn't be the case anyways. So let's go with some information. Now, Oud Wood was launched back in 2007 along with the original launches from the private blends, which included Tuscan Leather, I believe Noir de Noir, of course Oud Wood, and some others. When this actually launched back in 2007, it actually brought oud mainstream because before this one there wasn't really any popular fragrances. Of course you did have YSL's M7, which Tom Ford was also behind that fragrance, but it wasn't really popular until this fragrance came out and it took off. As far as the retail price, which has gone up so much since I actually first smelled these back in, I think like maybe 2017, 2018, when they were $240 for a 50 ml. Now they are actually $295 for this size, or you can get the 100 ml for $400. So they have gone up like 60 bucks in the last 5 or so years. Because I actually purchased my Tuscan Leather 5 years ago at Saks Fifth Avenue for $240. So yeah, these prices are just getting insane. The concentration along with all of the private blends are in eau de parfum, which means they are a little bit higher in the perfume oils rather than like an eau de cologne or an eau de toilette, which is nice. As far as the perfumer, who is actually Richard Herpen, now he hasn't really got the biggest resume or any other fragrances that I know that he's made, but he has launched his own brand called Precious Liquids, which have got some hype, especially some of them like salt and pepper, I believe. So I definitely want to try some from his own line now. With all the information out of the way, let's look at the packaging and presentation you get with Oud Wood now. So I am going to be showing you my tobacco oud box because my Oud Wood box is absolutely buried. I really need to get those things organized. However, this does look the exact same. Of course, you have this kind of smoky gray finish on these oud private blends with that plaque in the front. Some information right there, eau de parfum 50 ml. On the bottom you have your barcode and batch code to authenticate your product to see when it was produced. On the back you do have some of your ingredients. On top you do have the Tom Ford stamp. Nothing inside, but your fragrance is housed in there very nicely. So let's look at the bottle now. Okay, looking at these classic private blend bottles, I love the aesthetic of these things. They kind of look like pillars, especially the 50 mls, which I much prefer over the 100 mls, especially lined up as you see in the left corner. But looking at this, of course, you have this nice kind of dark gray finish on these oud private blend bottles with the same plaque on the front. On the bottom, you have your information and a batch code right there, which I believe mine says B81, which I think is either a 2021 batch or even a 2022. On top, you do have that gray Tom Ford plaque as well. Nothing on the back, nothing inside of the cap, nothing on the atomizers. And these caps are plastic, they are very lightweight, and they don't click into place. So be cautious when picking these up. In the notes, you have oud, rosewood, cardamom, sandalwood, vanilla, Sichuan pepper, vetiver, tonka bean, and amber. And this would be classified as a woody spicy. So let's spray this and test out these private blend atomizers. Honestly, very disappointing, especially for the price. Some of the worst atomizers actually. So I don't know what Tom Ford has going on, but he should absolutely upgrade these things, guys. Terrible. So let's go into smell oud wood. and remind myself and transport myself back 5 years ago, first time smelling this. Yeah, this is such a timeless classic fragrance. I absolutely love the way this stuff smells. Of course, in the top, you are gonna get this very exotic, spicy, peppery opening from, of course, that cardamom and that Sichuan pepper, which is very dominant. This is a spicy fragrance through and through. But it also has this kind of smoky, resinous holiness about it, which is weird because incense or any like resins are not listed in this fragrance. But to me, when I smell this, I kind of picture going into like a holy temple with incense burning. And that's actually how Tom Ford described this fragrance on his website. So I'm not really sure where that's coming from, but it does have that warm kind of resinous smokiness about it. Yeah, kind of like one of those temples or churches, of course, with those old wood benches, and it's like they're burning incense inside. That's the vibe I get from oud wood. It's so good, guys. It's kind of dry, kind of creamy. You also are gonna get that rosewood, which is probably one of the most dominant notes in here, even over that oud. Now, rosewood is a very kind of rich, spicy wood, and it's not used in a lot of fragrances, so it does bring a nice unique twist to oud wood as well. Very woody. Now, once you make your way into the mid, not much going on in that mid besides you are going to get that dry vetiver, a little bit earthy vetiver as well, but it's extremely dry, guys, along with that nice creamy kind of dusty sandalwood note. This has a very nice woody aroma about this whole entire DNA that I just absolutely adore. By far one of my favorite private blends out of all the ones I own. Oud wood will always be either number 1, number 2, definitely in the top 3, probably forever. Once we do make our way into the base, of course we haven't talked about the oud yet, hence the name oud wood. Now, honestly, this isn't the most oud dominant fragrance. It's not gonna be barnyardy. It's not gonna be like fecal or dirty or earthy or anything like that. For the most part, how it comes across to me, guys, is actually very different and strange. Well, not strange in a bad way, strange in a good way. It's very mysterious, guys. It kind of comes across plasticky, which may be kind of like weird to you if you hear that. It definitely has this kind of like laboratory plasticky vibe about the oud, or how it's done in here, with a slight earthiness. You could definitely kind of detect the oud in this fragrance. It might be off-putting to some people if they never actually smelled oud before, but that's why I think this would be a perfect entry-level oud for anybody just diving into this note, wants to get into it and not be too like offensive and barnyardy. I definitely recommend oud wood because of that. It still has a slight mass appeal about this fragrance, even being with that oud, because a lot of times oud can be off-putting. A lot of people do not like that note. And oud has actually been around for thousands of years. It's even mentioned in the Bible as aloes wood, which a lot of people don't know. If you look up aloe wood, it is actually agar wood. So I think that is very interesting and why I love this note so much. But it also does have this very nice, warm, creamy base, and that's coming from, of course, that vanilla, a spicy, warm, cozy vanilla note. And there is also that amber listed. I don't really get much of that amber unless it is playing that kind of resinous smokiness that I get towards the beginning of this kind of scent profile. Definitely a spicy vanilla along with that oud. So good, guys. Absolutely timeless fragrance from Tom Ford, and still probably one of the most popular within the private blends, along with Tuscan leather and tobacco vanille. So for seasons and occasions, the best wear oud wood, guys. Honestly, when I smell this one, it transports me to the fall time, especially Halloween even, guys, because there's this kind of dark, mysterious nature about oud wood that just smells like Halloween to me. Perfect fragrance to wear during the fall when the leaves are on the ground. You kind of get that fall air, that environment. Yeah, that's how oud wood comes across to me, guys, and that's why I love it so much. Of course, I love my fall, winter fragrances, and this one just has fall into this bottle. But besides fall, you still could pull it off in the winter and maybe even spring evening, because it's not really the most dark, kind of earthy, strong fragrance that's overpowering for the springtime. Definitely not so much the summertime though, but spring, fall, and winter without a doubt. Now for occasions, I think this one would work flawlessly dressed up in like a tuxedo, a nice suit, a dress shirt, something along those lines. It has this very kind of fancy vibe about it, very luxurious smelling. But I also believe the right person could dress this one down and still fit that situation. So it kind of depends on you, but without a doubt, a more formal suited fragrance, especially maybe even going on a date night even as well. I think this one would work for that just because of how like mysterious, how comforting this fragrance comes across, especially a date night during the fall time. I think it's perfect. For gender and age groups, of course, when it comes to the private blends, they are targeted as unisex. They're not targeted towards men, not targeted towards women, just for both. So I think oud would, of course, there are some that lean masculine, some that lean feminine. This one, though, I think it is very unisex. I think a man can pull this one off flawlessly, but also a woman can pull this one off as well. Even being an oud fragrance, a woody fragrance, there's nothing that's too masculine about it. An interesting fact, actually, I heard this is actually Taylor Swift's signature scent, which I think is awesome. So yeah, if you want to smell like Taylor Swift, if you're a woman watching this, you might want to check out oud wood. Now for age groups as well, coming with this whole scent profile being, like I said, mysterious, dark, earthy, woody, spicy, I think it does lean on more of the mature side, maybe mid-20s and up. Not too mature, but definitely on the mature side rather than a youthful, playful side. There's nothing that screams teenager about this. If you're in your teens, you're going to be wearing like sauvage, blue style fragrances, maybe something different, something fresh, citrusy, but this one is on the mature side. But at the end of the day, you can wear whatever you want, whenever you want, at any age you are. But if you are a younger guy watching this one and you are just getting into fragrances, this might not be something that you kind of lean towards. Now, wrapping things off, talking on the performance of oud wood. Now, of course, it has been around since 2007. I believe it has been reformulated a few times. Of course, my batch is one of the newer batches. I think 2021 is what I remember looking up. And honestly, from what I remember when I first smelled this one 5 or so years ago, it was a little bit different. It didn't really have that overly plasticky oud in it, but it does still carry that same profile. It still transports me to back in the day when I first got my nose on it. So it's still oud wood without a doubt, just a little bit different. As far as the performance, I think it might be a little bit weaker than I remember, this batch at least, but I still got up to the average mark, which is around 8 hours of longevity. But that 8 hours is pushing it. It's probably more like 6 to 8, of course, depending on the situation, the weather outside, etc. So it's not really a poor performer, but it's also not a beast mode. And honestly, a lot of the Tom Fords aren't really beast mode fragrances. I can't even think of one that is beast mode. Possibly Tuscan Leather, especially mine, because it has matured for 5 years and that's some dark juice in there. But still, for the most part, these private blends are about average performing. And that is kind of upsetting, especially for the price. These are not cheap fragrances, especially once you start getting to Effin' Fabulous and Bitter Peach, which are like $500 a bottle for 100 ml. Or like even $550 actually. Very pricey. As far as the projection with oud wood, this is a very close, intimate kind of scent bubble fragrance. This isn't gonna like push off the skin heavily or anything like that. Just, it does have that kind of airiness about it. So just keep that in mind. It might push off the skin for possibly around the 2 hour mark and then start to come closer up until that 8 hour mark until it really starts to disappear on you. That's why earlier I said it will be a perfect date night fragrance, because it isn't gonna like overpower your date or anything along those lines. You can definitely overspray this one a little bit. Just be cautious and just use your own judgment when wearing oud wood. That's gonna do it for my review of this timeless Tom Ford, guys, oud wood. I absolutely love this fragrance. It will always be special to me, of course, being the first oud fragrance I ever smelled and the fragrance that basically got me into oud, and now it being my favorite note of all time. So yeah, extremely special to me, very sentimental as well. But besides that, let me know down below if you ever had your chance to get your nose on oud wood, and if you have tried Tom Ford's, what is your favorite private blend? There is one that I absolutely need, which is Tobacco Vanille, another staple in the private blend collection. But besides that, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see all of you back here in my next upload. Take care, everybody.